Bill Gates made a rare public statement last week, and what he said shocked the entire tech industry. Windows 11 is hemorrhaging users at a rate Microsoft never predicted, and the company is in full crisis mode. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to show you reveals why Microsoft is terrified, why Bill Gates himself had to step in, and why Windows might not survive the next 5 years. The numbers don't lie. Windows 11 currently sits at 28% market adoption. That's not just bad, that's catastrophic. Microsoft projected Windows 11 would hit 55% adoption by March 2025. They're off by 27 percentage points. But the real nightmare for Microsoft isn't the slow adoption, it's the mass exodus. In the last 4 months, Windows has lost 6.3% total market share. Where are those users going? Mac OS is up 3.1%. Linux desktop distributions are up 1.9%. Chrome OS grabbed 1.3%. The remaining percentage points went to users who stopped using computers entirely and switched exclusively to tablets and phones. This isn't users delaying an upgrade. This is users abandoning the Windows ecosystem completely, permanently, and Microsoft's internal documents show they're panicking. A leaked memo from Microsoft's Windows division head, obtained by investigative tech journalists, shows the language is urgent. The memo uses phrases like platform survival and existential marketplace threat. These aren't words you use when things are going fine. These are words you use when the house is on fire and nobody can find the extinguisher. Bill Gates hasn't been Microsoft's CEO since 2000. He stepped down from the board entirely in 2020. For him to be pulled into emergency planning sessions means the situation is beyond dire. And when you look at what's actually driving users away, when you see the decisions Microsoft made that caused this rebellion, you understand why Gates is involved. Because Windows 11 isn't just unpopular, it's actively hostile to its own users. Let me show you where the disaster started. The Start menu. Sounds trivial, right? It's just a menu. Except the Start menu has been the core interface of Windows since 1995. 30 years of muscle memory. 30 years of users knowing exactly where things are. Windows 11 changed it, centered it instead of left aligned, removed features, made it look like a mobile interface. Users hated it. Microsoft's response? Too bad, you'll get used to it. There's no official option to revert to the Windows 10 style Start menu. Third-party apps like Start 11 and Start All Back exist, but you have to pay for them. Users are paying money to fix what Microsoft broke. This isn't innovation. This is change for the sake of change, and it alienated millions. Gary Patterson is a network administrator in Toronto managing IT for a company with 340 employees. He upgraded the company to Windows 11 in August 2024 because Microsoft said support for Windows 10 would end. Within 2 days, the help desk was flooded. Employees couldn't find their applications. The Start menu search wasn't working properly. Pinned items kept disappearing after updates. Productivity dropped by an estimated 15% company-wide because people were spending time fighting the interface instead of working. Gary spent 2 weeks creating a 47-page training document teaching employees how to use the new Start menu. 47 pages for a Start menu. That's insane. He submitted feedback to Microsoft through official channels. He got an automated response. No human ever replied. 3 months later, nothing changed. His company is now planning a migration to Linux workstations with a Windows-style interface. Microsoft lost a 340-seat enterprise customer because they redesigned a Start menu and refused to give users a choice. That's the pattern. Microsoft makes changes users don't want, users complain, Microsoft ignores the complaints, users leave. And it's not just the Start menu, it's everything. The taskbar. In Windows 10, you could move the taskbar to the top, left, or right side of the screen. Power users loved this. Multi-monitor setups benefited from it. Windows 11 removed that feature. The taskbar is now locked to the bottom. No option to move it. Why? Microsoft said it simplifies the code. Translation, they didn't want to maintain the feature, so they deleted it. Users with vertical monitors are stuck with a taskbar at the bottom that makes no sense for their setup. Users who spent 20 years with the taskbar on the left now have to relearn their workflow. Microsoft's attitude: deal with it. Then there's the right-click context menu. Windows 10 had a full context menu with every option right there. One click, you see everything. Copy, paste, delete, properties, all of it. Windows 11 replaced it with a simplified menu. Fewer options, icons instead of text. To get the full menu, you have to click Show More Options. That's an extra click for every single action. Multiply that by thousands of times per day across millions of users. Microsoft added billions of wasted clicks to the global workforce because they wanted a prettier menu. Amanda Cho is a video editor in Singapore. She works with 4K footage, tight deadlines, and complex timelines. Her workflow involves hundreds of right-click actions per day: copying files, moving files, opening properties, accessing context menu tools. Windows 11 added an extra click to every single one of those actions. She timed it. The new context menu added an average of 12 minutes per day to her workflow. That's an hour per week. 52 hours per year, more than a full work week wasted clicking Show More Options. She switched to Mac in December 2024. Microsoft lost her because they added an extra click. It sounds petty. It sounds like users are complaining about small things, but design matters. Efficiency matters. When you force millions of people to do extra work for no benefit, they leave. And Microsoft isn't listening. User feedback forums are filled with complaints about these changes. Thousands of upvotes on requests to bring back features. Microsoft's response is silence. They don't engage. They don't explain. They don't offer solutions. They just keep pushing updates that remove more features and add more restrictions. Here's where it gets truly baffling. Windows 11 requires an internet connection to complete installation. Even if you're setting up a local account, even if you're not signing into Microsoft services, you must be connected to the internet during installation. If you're not, the installer stops. It won't proceed. Microsoft's justification is that it needs to check for updates and download drivers. But here's the problem. What if you don't have internet? What if you're setting up a computer in a location without connectivity? What if you're in a secure environment where the computer can't be connected to the internet for security reasons? Too bad. Microsoft decided your use case doesn't matter. The installer demands internet or it won't install. James Rodriguez is a technician for an oil company in Alaska. He sets up computers for remote drilling sites. These locations have no internet. They use satellite communication for critical data only. Bandwidth is expensive and limited. He tried to deploy Windows 11 to new workstations in June 2024. The installer refused to proceed without internet. He couldn't complete the installation. His workaround involved creating a fake network connection using a router with no internet, just to trick the installer into continuing. It worked, but it's absurd. He's now deploying Linux on those machines instead. Microsoft's requirement for internet during installation cost them an entire industrial sector. Oil, mining, maritime, remote research stations. All those environments are moving away from Windows because Microsoft decided internet connectivity is mandatory. And the internet requirement isn't just for installation. Windows 11 constantly phones home, telemetry data getting sent to Microsoft servers, diagnostic information, usage statistics, error reports, all of it transmitted whether you want it or not. You can disable some telemetry through settings, but not all of it. Microsoft keeps certain data collection mandatory. They claim it's necessary for improving Windows, but users don't trust that, because Microsoft has a history of using telemetry data for advertising. Windows 10 introduced ads in the Start menu, suggested apps that are actually paid promotions. Microsoft claimed the telemetry data helps personalize the experience. Translation: they use your data to target ads. Windows 11 expanded this. Ads in the File Explorer, ads in the Settings menu, ads in notifications. Microsoft is advertising OneDrive subscriptions, Microsoft 365 subscriptions, and Edge browser features inside the operating system. Lisa Morgan bought a $1,400 laptop in October 2024. High-end Dell, great specs came with Windows 11. She started using it and within 3 days saw ads in File Explorer suggesting she upgrade her OneDrive storage. She paid $1,400 for this computer. The cost of Windows was included in that price, and Microsoft is showing her ads on hardware she owns, in software she paid for. She called Dell support and asked how to remove the ads. The support rep told her those are Microsoft features and Dell can't disable them. She returned the laptop within the return window and bought a MacBook Pro. Microsoft lost a customer because they put ads in File Explorer. This is the core problem. Microsoft no longer treats Windows as a product you buy. They treat it as a platform they control to push services and subscriptions. Windows isn't serving the user anymore. It's serving Microsoft's revenue goals. And users are realizing this. They're realizing their computer isn't theirs. It's Microsoft's. The OS is designed to extract data, push ads, and funnel users towards subscriptions. The user experience is secondary. Bill Gates built Microsoft on the idea that software should empower people. That's the mission statement, to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Windows 11 does the opposite. It restricts what users can do. It forces choices users don't want. It prioritizes Microsoft's business model over user needs. That's why Gates is involved now, because the philosophy that built Microsoft is being abandoned, and it's killing Windows. Now let's talk about the update disaster. Windows updates have always been controversial. Forced restarts, broken drivers, updates that brick systems. Windows 10 had problems, but Windows 11 made it worse. Updates are now tied to Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. The updates download from Microsoft servers, install automatically, and you have very limited control over the process. You can delay updates for a few weeks, but eventually, Windows forces the update whether you're ready or not. In February 2024, Microsoft pushed a cumulative update for Windows 11 KB5 ISO 34848. Within hours, reports flooded in. The update was bricking systems, blue screens of death, boot loops, systems that wouldn't start. Microsoft pulled the update after 14 hours, but millions of computers were already affected. IT departments worldwide spent the next week recovering systems, rolling back updates, restoring from backups. Business productivity was destroyed. And Microsoft's response was a generic apology and a promise to investigate. Thomas Brandt runs an architecture firm in Munich with 28 employees. The KB5034848 update hit his office overnight. The next morning, 19 of his 28 workstations wouldn't boot. Blue screens, recovery mode didn't work. He spent the entire day with his IT contractor trying to recover the systems. They managed to restore 14 systems from backups. 5 systems required complete reinstalls, losing local data that wasn't backed up. The cost in lost productivity and IT labor was over $11,000. And Microsoft's explanation? A bug in the update that wasn't caught in testing. No compensation. No accountability. Just sorry. Our bad. Thomas migrated his entire firm to Mac within 2 months. Microsoft lost a long-term customer because they pushed a broken update that destroyed his business operations for a week. This isn't an isolated incident. Windows 11 updates have repeatedly caused major problems: driver conflicts, performance degradation, features breaking. Microsoft's testing process is clearly inadequate. They rely on Windows Insiders, a program where volunteers test pre-release updates. But the Insider program is small, and it doesn't catch everything. By the time updates reach the general public, they're often still buggy. Users have become unwilling beta testers. They're forced to install updates that may or may not work. There's no way to opt out. Windows will install the update eventually. You can't say no permanently. And here's the infuriating part. Enterprise customers with Windows 11 Pro or Enterprise editions can defer updates longer. They have more control. But Windows 11 Home users, the majority of the user base, are stuck. Microsoft decided that home users don't deserve control over updates. The assumption is that home users are too stupid to manage updates themselves, so Microsoft forces updates on them for their own good. That's the attitude, and users hate it. Chloe Bennett is a college student in Melbourne. She's writing her thesis, a 90-page research paper that's due in 2 weeks. She's working on her laptop, Windows 11 Home Edition. She's typing, and suddenly Windows pops up a notification. Update ready, restart required. She clicks Remind me later. The notification goes away. 2 hours later, it's back. She's in the middle of writing. She dismisses it again. 4 hours later, she takes a break, closes her laptop. When she opens it the next morning, Windows restarted overnight and installed the update without her permission. Her unsaved work is gone. Word has an auto-save feature, but it failed this time. She lost 3 hours of work because Windows decided it was time to update. She's switching to a Chromebook for her next device. Microsoft lost a future customer because they restarted her computer without permission. The forced update philosophy treats users like children who can't be trusted, and that extends to every part of Windows 11. The OS constantly nags. Prompts to switch to Edge, prompts to use Bing, prompts to sign into a Microsoft account, prompts to enable OneDrive syncing, prompts to try Microsoft 365. It's relentless. The operating system feels like adware. You're constantly clicking no, not now, or dismissing pop-ups. It's exhausting. Here's what makes users furious. Mac OS doesn't do this. Linux doesn't do this. Chrome OS doesn't do this. Only Windows nags you constantly to use Microsoft services because Microsoft is desperate to lock users into their ecosystem. They need subscription revenue. They need cloud adoption. They need data for their AI models. Windows 11 is the vehicle to extract all of that from users, and users are rejecting it. The privacy nightmare is another massive issue. Windows 11 collects more data than any previous version of Windows. Microsoft's privacy policy is 60 pages long. Most users never read it. If you do read it, it's terrifying. Microsoft collects your browsing history, search queries, location data, voice data if you use Cortana, inking and typing data, and diagnostic data about how you use Windows. They claim it's anonymized, but security researchers have shown that anonymized data can often be de-anonymized, and Microsoft shares this data with third parties, advertisers, and partners. You don't own your data. Microsoft does. Edward Kim is a journalist in Seoul covering government corruption. His work is sensitive. He deals with whistleblowers, leaked documents, and confidential sources. He upgraded to Windows 11 in March 2024 because his organization mandated it. He started reading the privacy policy and realized Windows 11 is tracking everything he types. The inking and typing data collection includes everything entered into the keyboard. Microsoft claims this is to improve autocorrect and suggestions. But for a journalist handling confidential information, this is unacceptable. He switched to Linux with full disk encryption. Microsoft lost him because their privacy policy is invasive, and he's not alone. Privacy-conscious professionals, lawyers, doctors, journalists, activists are all abandoning Windows because they can't trust it. The European Union has launched multiple investigations into Windows 11's data collection practices. GDPR regulators are questioning whether Microsoft's telemetry complies with European privacy law. Microsoft has made some concessions in Europe, offering more granular privacy controls, but those controls aren't available worldwide. In the US, Microsoft collects significantly more data because there are fewer regulations. Users are aware of this disparity. They see that Microsoft respects privacy in Europe because they're forced to, but not elsewhere. That breeds distrust. And then there's the Microsoft account mandate. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves deeper examination because it's one of the most hated aspects of Windows 11. You cannot install Windows 11 Home without a Microsoft account. The option to create a local offline account was removed from the installer. You must provide an email and password tied to Microsoft. If you don't have a Microsoft account, you must create one during installation. No way around it officially. There are workarounds, but Microsoft patches them constantly. The command prompt bypass that worked in early Windows 11 builds was patched. The disconnect from internet trick was patched. The use a blocked email trick was patched. Microsoft is in a constant battle against its own users who just want a local account. Why does Microsoft force this? Control and data. A Microsoft account ties your computer to their cloud services. It enables telemetry tracking across devices. It links your Windows usage to your Microsoft 365 usage, your Edge browsing, your Bing searches. Microsoft gets a complete profile of your digital life. And that profile is valuable. It drives advertising revenue. It trains AI models. It feeds into their ecosystem lock-in strategy. The Microsoft account isn't for your benefit. It's for Microsoft's benefit. Daniel Foster is a privacy advocate in Berlin. He's been using Windows since 1998. He prefers local accounts because he doesn't want his data synced to the cloud. He doesn't want Microsoft tracking his usage. He bought a new laptop in May 2024 with Windows 11. During setup, he was forced to create a Microsoft account. He used a temporary email address, completed the setup, then spent an hour converting the Microsoft account back to a local account through settings. It's possible, but it's buried deep in the settings menu. Most users don't know how to do it. Microsoft intentionally makes it difficult. He's fed up. His next computer will be a Linux machine. Microsoft lost a 26-year Windows user because they removed the local account option. The gaming situation is another catastrophe for Microsoft. Windows has always been the gaming platform. DirectX, Game Pass, Steam, every major game supports Windows. Gaming kept users on Windows even when they hated everything else about it. But Windows 11 is losing gamers. Performance issues are part of it. But the bigger problem is that Linux gaming has become viable. Valve's Steam Deck runs Linux. Proton, Valve's compatibility layer, allows most Windows games to run on Linux with near-native performance. Gamers are discovering they don't need Windows anymore. They can play their entire Steam library on Linux. Ryan Hughes is a streamer in Texas with 340,000 followers on Twitch. He plays a variety of games, mostly on PC. He upgraded to Windows 11 in April 2024 because he wanted the latest features and assumed it would be better for gaming. Instead, he experienced stuttering in several titles, frame time inconsistencies, and occasional crashes that never happened on Windows 10. He spent weeks troubleshooting, updated drivers, tweaked settings, disabled background services. Nothing fixed it completely. He saw forum posts from other gamers reporting the same issues. Meanwhile, he started experimenting with Linux for a secondary streaming PC. He installed Pop! OS and tested his games using Proton. To his surprise, most games ran perfectly. Some even ran better than on Windows 11. He's now considering switching his main rig to Linux. If a major streamer with 340,000 followers publicly switches to Linux, that influences thousands of his viewers. Microsoft is losing the gaming community, the one audience they thought they had locked down. The DirectX advantage that kept gamers on Windows is eroding. Vulkan, the open-source graphics API, is matching and sometimes exceeding DirectX performance. Game developers are supporting Vulkan because it's cross-platform. It works on Windows, Linux, and even Android. Proton translates DirectX calls to Vulkan, enabling Windows games to run on Linux. The technology has matured to the point where Linux gaming is no longer a compromise. It's a legitimate alternative, and gamers are noticing. Here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about an operating system. This is about the future of personal computing. For 30 years, Windows defined what a computer was for most people. If you used a computer, you used Windows. That era is ending. We're moving into a fragmented landscape where no single OS dominates, where users choose based on their needs and values, where privacy, performance, and control matter more than compatibility and ubiquity. Microsoft didn't see this coming. They assumed users had no choice. They assumed Windows was too big to fail. They were wrong, and now they're scrambling to save Windows from irrelevance. The next time you see a Microsoft ad talking about how great Windows 11 is, remember what's happening behind the scenes. Remember the emergency meetings. Remember Bill Gates being pulled out of retirement to fix the disaster. Remember the millions of users abandoning Windows every month. Because Microsoft isn't going to tell you that. They're going to pretend everything is fine until it's too late. But you'll know the truth. Windows is dying, and Microsoft is running out of time to save it. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening with Windows, subscribe right now, because I'm going to keep covering this story as it develops. We're going to see whether Microsoft can turn this around or whether we're watching the slow death of Windows in real time. The next 24 months will determine the future of the world's most used operating system, and I'll be here documenting every step. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next, because this is the biggest tech story of the decade, and it's just getting started.